Is he here?
Well, you want to play, you just want to play, right? It's true!
It's so fun.
Episode 3, Scene 5, Take 2. Okay. Hi.
Hi.
Hey Melvin.
Hey, hi.
Thank you so much for having this conversation with us today. What's this, the tone of this? I thought you say sensual.
Sensual. Not sensual. Where we go?
I remember buying like rubbish fanzine as I think one of the first few books that I bought.
I remember Cabinet of Curiosities at Art Science Museum. And there were children like climbing on the walls.
This behind you is 7 Hop Road, which is the first
Yes.
edition that you took part in, is it, as an exhibitor?
I think so. I had a lot of fun at that.
My earliest memory of the Singapore Book Fair is me calling Steph one day and going like, we have a month left to doing this thing. Should we do something? Should we start putting something together? We both have full-time jobs, so the Singapore Book Fair was kind of like a sideline thing that we both agreed to do.
That would have been what, 2013?
2013.
2013. So then maybe we fast forward a little bit. You had a rebrand of the fair in 2018.
So I left the bookstore in 2017. The edition then was in April, and I remember like I was just kind of like trying to get through it, right? And I think after that edition, there were exhibitors that came up to me and were like, "I'm sorry, I don't think we're coming back this year or next year." Yeah, they were like, "I don't think I'm coming back next year. It just doesn't feel like something I'm proud of. Like the Singapore Book Fair feels more like a craft market. It felt like a flea market, and they were like, yeah, I think if this is it for the next few years, I don't think we're coming back." That I was like, okay, something needs to change. So I took over the company and I decided to do a rebrand.
I remember this 2018 one where there was like a big design shift. And I think Renée was like very stressed out. She was like, I don't want it to be like the same as other book fairs. And then like she sat me down and she was like, I want everything to look different, like everything from like newsletters, social media, events, vendors, and like the type of representation. Like she wanted everything to be like drastically different.
So previously it was, if you knew, you knew. You know, it was like, if you knew about it, you would email us, and then it was sort of like a closed call thing. It wasn't an open call. So that part changed. I decided to like, to do an open call this time. Even down to things like the table sizes, the way in which the exhibitors are laid out. So it needs to flow in a certain way. The curation of the exhibitors, the curation of the flow, the curation of the music, every single thing.
I know that like Renée approached you to do a rebrand, right? So it was like kind of pivoting the visual identity of something that existed. So how do you even, like what's the process of rebranding a art book fair?
I remember we were talking about how the art audience wasn't very focused prior. I think the first few editions, there were like travel magazines, there were, if I recall, also like even more lifestyle in terms of the selection of the booths, and a lot of things that are outside of, I guess, how we understand, you know, what an art fair is, art book fair is. So I think what we wanted to do is kind of look at how we can actually focus a lot more, and from there also looking at certain case studies around the world and how to be more internationally aligned to what people understand as what an art book fair is. Then I think the later half of the fairs that we were involved in, it's kind of like banking on familiarity and trying to enhance, I guess, an efficient workflow, and also a little bit of like just trying to ensure that people remember, especially those that came to the fair before, know what it's about, and use branding as a way to recognize what they would to expect in terms of the fair. To address the color, I think color is very abstract. I feel like I don't really know the pathway to deciding on the color. I think every year we also have a certain... I don't remember.
Red or blue?
I remembered why that blue though. Because I think we were looking at art and what famous blues that is found in art, and then Yves Klein blue was one. And we felt it was very rich and vibrant. We wanted to try using Pantone, which is, you get a more, dense shade.
For digital marketing and comms at that time, like, were you worried about like how people would take the transformation?
No, I think I was just having fun and all the anxieties were on Renée. I was just like, oh, okay, like you want this idea? Sure, let's go for it. Oh, like, okay, like one thing I remember us thinking a lot about was how to make the festival more lively. We were trying to introduce more programs, performances, and like the idea of just thinking about how to fit that all in our book festival and still make sense.
Can you share your favorite memory of the fair? Personal one, anything?
You know, when the day wraps up, at the end of the day, I don't know how you describe it. You feel like you've got a solid day done. And it's been a very fruitful day. So that feeling stays with me. That artistic labor is very fulfilling. So I can remember that feeling. So it's not specific memories, but specific kind of feelings that you have that actually at every fair, you revisit that.
Like I've met people who have really impacted my life in ways that I wouldn't like imagine. I've dated some people. You don't know that, but I've dated some people at the fair.
Oh my gosh!
I think in the 2022 Art Fair, when we first moved to SAM, and then there was like the snaking queues, right? Picture of that. Snaking queues, and then the security uncle came out and he was like, "They queuing for what? Food ah?" And I was like, "No, books." What, books ah? And I was like, "Yeah, who would have thunk?"
That medium of a book, which is physical, and you can constantly revisit, I think it is even more important in today's time. I mean, if you think about it, you could fold pages, you could see it degrade and degenerate, which I think for many mediums, you don't see the effects of time. I mean, okay, film does degrade, but we've gone to digital, and that's why the object as art is important, because it's molded. Yeah, and I think that's what art is in some ways.
Right, and I think having a space dedicated to this is really
Yes.
important.
Especially in like a small city like ours, and when it comes to art and creative work, you always feel like you have to come to the table with like a very polished product or a very well thought out idea. But actually that goes beyond like the core of an art book fair.
We keep it an open space as much as we can, a free space as much as we can. Free as in like freedom of expression, freedom of anything, right? Like as much as we can, so that it allows for these different permutations of this form.
How do you see, the Singapore Art Book Fair fit? Where do you see it fit into like this larger ecosystem of the arts?
I must say the Art Book Fair has been very consistent. It's keeping that spirit of a community, partly because you do work with folks who are commercial design studios. And in most places you think that design studios are competitive, right? The market is small. But with something like the Art Book Fair, everybody's coming together as peers and as friends. And I think that's something very precious about our creative community that we must not forget. That we're not competing with one another. That's not what it's about. It's really just making really good work, having fun, and the market is big enough for everyone. The spirit of independence, I think, is the spirit to say, I will make it regardless. The impulse to make is pure. While it's intrinsic, the fact that it survives is because it's common. And so many people give to it, right? As long as you keep that going, you stay relevant to whatever it is, right? Because you are just a mirror for their aspirations.
I hope that people see that I love it, because I feel like when you love something so much and you do it, it's infectious. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I have to love it. And I think if I don't love it, I will stop doing it. And I think where I'm at right now is that I still wholeheartedly love this.
I remember the Ting like that.
Yeah.
I hated the installation, so tiring. Then must put the paper on the light. Anyway, don't put that in.
It just looked like a brothel from like afar.